How's it going, guys? Darth Valley here. So, I know we just got done with the point series. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Took me a long time to put it together and get it all out there. But I realized that you guys have seen the cars from kind of afar. Maybe you saw me dropping it down on the track real quick or something. But you guys haven't really seen the cars or kind of the gear that I use. And I figured I would put together a video kind of showing you guys how I run my cars and some of the equipment that I use, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. So basically, we've got the two cars here that I mainly race. I've got my Mini B here that I bought as the roller, actually, from Losi. Almost nothing is original on this car at this point, except probably the chassis and the chassis guards. Um, and really, that's about it at this point. And then, of course, we have the Micro that's been out for a bit now. Got a ton of stuff into this car, a ton of upgrades, a lot of work in general, and actually pretty impressed that still managed to fit everything in the original body, unmodified. I mean, granted, of course, yes, you may see some extra holes here cut out, but that's mainly for the way that I used to run the transponder. We used to run it back here and on into the inside. Then you might see this post sticking out here, and that's actually for a different body that I run every once in a while. You guys will get to see that pretty close up and personal too. So basically, we're going to start off with the Mini B, go into detail, and then we'll move on to the Micro, and then after that we'll go into some of the gear, like some of the radio that I use, and then I'll kind of give you guys a tour of my pit bag that I actually use for both of these cars. Space for me personally is pretty important because I don't have a ton of it. For those of you who don't know, I pretty much ride my motorcycle almost full time to and from the track, so I have a very limited space. So carrying two cars, spares, tools, it's all batteries, of course, charger. The smaller the stuff I can get for these cars, the better. So I pretty much got it perfected to how I carry all my stuff. So we'll move on into the Mini B now. Okay, so here we have my Mini B. This is how it looks right now when I'm racing. I even use, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but I use this K-Link stand with me. This is actually part of my gear. It goes in my pit bag all the time. I really like it because I can fold it up and it fits really nice and flat. So for somebody like me who doesn't have a lot of space, this is a really big deal for me because I can get the car up and off so it's not resting on the tires. And of course that way too, if I need to work on anything, I can get it up and off of the table. So, custom painted body. This is the second iteration of this racing body. Recently started running the lead finger wing on the rear. Really a big fan of this wing and lead finger stuff in general. They've got really nice, thick plastic, so their stuff is really durable. I want to run a lead finger body, but not sure exactly how I'm going to do the paint scheme on that. So right now I have my transponder double-sided taped here onto the body itself. In the future, I was kind of thinking about maybe running it on top of the servo. That way we're not running it outside of the body. But I've never had any issues with my transponder coming loose, getting ripped off by another racer, or anything like that. So we're just going to probably keep it running like that for now. I like running the body clip with this little tab here. Makes it really easy to get it on and off. So Like I was saying before, I initially bought this as the Losi Pro Roller. Like I said, really the only thing stock at, or really the only thing that's left at this point is the chassis and the bumpers. Of course, we can see my chassis guard here. So let's get this body off and start taking a closer look. Also, just so you guys know, the transponder I usually have hooked up to this battery on the inside too, just because it's what I'm running right now. Eventually, I would like to get another transponder and we would wire it directly into the receiver. But that's more money down the line, and I'm not super worried about it. What I'm using right now works just fine. So, basically, the guts of the car, the main stuff. So we've basically got the 2-in-1 Spektrum motor that's really popular for the Losi Mini B. Haven't had any issues with heat or anything. And I'm using the stock pinion, whatever number that is. I don't remember. So we upgraded to the Spektrum all metal servo. Had a lot of issues with going through servos like crazy. We also upgraded the servo mounts to the metal servo mounts. This is actually the Losi branded servo mounts. No issues since then upgrading to this, along with the Hot Racing Servo Saver. I've gotten it tightened down pretty tight. No issues there as far as loss of steering or anything with my skill level. Kind of a little more in detail here. I'm running a Radio Link 4 channel receiver here, and this over here is actually a switch. I've got an light switch toggleable on my radio. I've got a LED light in the back here. Sometimes I run it, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on what mood I'm in. We've got a ton of different upgrades. Like I said, probably the only thing that's left on here is the chassis, the bumpers, I guess this portion right here, I forget what this is called, and probably the motor cover here. This has been swapped out as well, this piece here. We're also running, I'm trying to remember, I think it's a Hot Racing motor mount, if I remember correctly. We've got the Losi carbon fiber upgraded rear shock stands, shock tower. Real big fan of the Hot Racing shocks all around. Personally, I didn't have a lot of luck with the Losi brand, so been running the Hot Racing. I've got an Amazon branded, or off of Amazon. I've got a rear wing mount here. During racing, I kept getting bumped a lot, and crashes ended up shifting the plastic and warping it, and ended up having my wing not sit properly. So we upgraded to the metal. Haven't had any issues since then. We also got the there we go. We also got the GPM bulkhead here. Had a lot of issues with crashes and a lot of stuff messing up the steering after that. And we've also got the Losi sway bars, rear and front, which helps a lot with cornering, of course. And I don't know if you guys can see, we've got an upgraded metal bumper in the front, and we've got the upgraded brass piece on the bottom here. I'm sorry, I always forget what this part is called down here, for a little extra weight, so I can try to dig in with the fronts a lot more. So this car has been through a lot. We basically had a year of racing for this car. Chassis still fine. We've had to replace suspension arms once already. We've got a lot of play in the fronts, from bumping into things. Rears are okay, but I need to swap them all out to get them good to go. And that way we have a lot less play. I did have the front wing mount on here. It got broken and I never got a chance to replace it. So we don't really run a super high speed track. So I figured, you know, it was more for aesthetic at that point, so we haven't put it back on. We've got the Losi caster blocks up front, along with the Losi steering turning knuckles up front, so all metal up front, just to help with that durability. And I'm trying to think, what else have we done? We've got the Losi upgraded drive shafts as well, and we've got metal hexes all around, just because, I mean, I know rears are probably the ones that you really want done, but I've got them running up front as well with the metal hexes. And then shock tower protector, of course, just because we're running on the RC carpet, don't want to damage it as much as we can. And so the connector, I'm basically running the Spectrum, you know, standard Spectrum batteries. I'm not running anything else crazy. I just stick to the standard 2S hard case batteries. And for the rears, I'm running, I believe these are the Proline Fuzz Bites. Oh no, sorry, JC Concept Fuzz Bites. And I like to run them in this orientation. I don't know if that's technically backwards or what, but that's the way I do them. And then I'm trying to remember the fronts. I always forget. The Proline wedges, I believe they're called. I get a lot of grip with these fronts. These fronts are pretty worn down from where I'm normally at. If I were to race again, I'd probably do a whole swap and get that done. But I'm trying to remember. So springs for the shocks, these are actually the Losi weakest springs in the set that you can get. So I'm running the Losi springs on the Hot Racing shocks. And then, if I remember correctly, I think we're running 40 weight in the front, and we've got 30 in the rear as far as shock oil goes. And that's, for the most part, it as far as the big stuff for the Mini B and upgrades. Micro B coming up next. Alright, so here is my Micro B, obviously painted in a pretty similar color scheme to my Mini B. This post, you might be wondering what the heck is that and why is it there. If you give me just a moment, I'll grab the body. So, this is the Truggy body that I will also have done up in the same similar color scheme. So to run this, it's a pretty easy setup. Basically, this comes off of a main. It comes as a clear body. You've got to cut it out and everything. You've got to also set up your hole back here. But it's really cool because all it is 2 screws, and they go right in your original shock tower, and that's how you get your front posts here. And basically, you run your front post, and then it sits like that for the most part. I don't want to show the internals just yet. We'll do kind of a demo here in a sec. Okay, so you also might be wondering, like I said before, what are all those holes in that body? So for those of you who might have already spotted it, I run my transponder on the inside. I used to run it on the wing back here, but I kind of ran into issues with it coming off, and I didn't like the wire, the way that I had to route it, and it did end up falling off with racing and everything. So I figured out that I could actually mount it right on top of the steering servo, and I've got a hole in here just to make sure there isn't any interference whatsoever. So this hole for here was, I used to run the transponder here on the back and route the cable inside. So I've been running this body the whole time I've been racing this car, so it's just gonna stay there until I decide to retire this body. So for now, I had somebody that was really nice at the track 3D print me this. These are really awesome. I don't know if you guys know about these. I see these all the time, these little clips on eBay and I'm sure you can probably find a 3D file out there for this. Basically, the way that I did mine is I got rid of the Velcro that's back here. That's also how I basically got rid of the Velcro, super glued this post to the top of the transmission, and that's how I'm able to run both bodies. But for racing, it's really nice because depending on how you run your transponder, your body might come off, or just how tight you have everything compacted, it might push your body off mid-race. This thing is really easy. Just like I said, get rid of the Velcro in the back, and then it just slots into your rear shock tower, and no issues there. So basically with this little piece off, we basically just pull the body off. And I did have some Velcro here on the sides and on the chassis to try to keep this original body on before I was introduced to this clip and was using this post. My body was coming off all the time, especially with the weight of the transponder back here initially. So this probably looks incredibly different from how you're used to seeing a stock micro. There's a lot of work that went into this, a lot of time, a lot of fiddling around, and it's going to change again soon. So I am running a carbon fiber lowered top deck that I found on Etsy. It's specifically for two different servos too. So with this change, it basically forces you to either choose a Reefs or an AFG servo. Personally, I run AFG servos in my bigger cars, so that's the brand that I went with. You can kind of see it peeking out there. They give all the specifications on the Etsy listing. If I can find it again, I'll have it in the description so you guys can go look. Also, this is not at all sponsored. This is just how I have happened to get my car set up. So we've got the lowered top deck, so I can fit all of this stuff in here without any modification. So with that, the battery tray, the original battery tray, has to come out, or your stock batteries won't fit anymore. And that is what I run. I run the stock Spektrum batteries in this car, just to make it easier to source batteries, and I know that they'll fit. There's just enough height on the battery itself. Basically, when you push the top deck down, it friction fits the battery in here. I've had no issues with the battery shifting around. Little bit of a drawback though, when you have to do a battery swap, unfortunately you have to undo these two screws up here for the top deck every single time. So you have to undo the screws, lift the top deck very slightly, that way you can do your battery swaps. So on top of that, like I said, I'm running an AFG servo. If I'm not mistaken, it is the A06CLS servo. Full metal servo, full metal gears, full metal casing. Have had no issues with this servo the entire time, even with some really hard hits. And even with the direct metal servo that is specific for this servo as well. Not only that, ton of upgrades on this as well. You might be able to see it peeking out, but I've got the GPM motor mount, even though we're actually running the stock motor and the stock pinion in this car right now. Losi did a really good job with gearing this car, I think. Even for the size, this thing doing 11, 13 miles an hour is super great. Although, for me personally, this car has reached its full potential, and we can no longer keep up with the really fast guys because everyone's switching over to a brushless motor. But before we get too far into that, so I'm running a Hobbywing Quick Run. I believe it's the Quick Run 24 ESC, which I believe is more used for crawling, but I've had really good success with this ESC. It gives a really smooth throttle response. There's a lot of different things you can set up with this ESC, and you can even swap it obviously from a brushed or a brushless motor. The big thing you guys might be able to, if you didn't already notice it, there's been a lot of modifications done to the wiring for this ESC. My battery lead here is like maybe an inch and a quarter long. I had to severely shorten it to be able to fit. The motor wires, I've got it set up for the brushed setup right now, but I had to modify that to get it on the original motor. But the cable that leads into the ESC itself, I think stock it comes about, let's try to get in the frame here, about this long, maybe a little bit longer. Basically shortened it down to about this, and then we have it coiled up and zip tied so everything's out of the way. And then again, we're running a 4-channel radio link receiver here. This does have a gyro, these do, but I don't use the gyros at all. Obviously it also wouldn't work in this configuration. Basically I have it double-sided taped to the ESC here, and you can see my cables, my cables are all plugged in here, and that's how I was able to get everything fit in here in the original body. Because when I got this car, there weren't any other bodies on the market. You were basically stuck with this. And then, everyone else that was putting different stuff in here, they were basically chopping the tops of their bodies off. I didn't want to do that. So this is the configuration that's been working for me. Haven't had any issues. Like I said, I've got my transponder here, just double-sided taped onto the servo. And I've got the cable kind of snaked around the ESC itself, and I've had no issues with that so far. Stock front and rear shock towers. I'm actually still running the plastic original Losi shocks. I've had no luck whatsoever with any metal shocks. GPM, Losi's upgraded shocks, they just seem to bind, and they don't work for me personally. I always find like that at some point they get stiff, so you've got really slow rebound. I haven't had any issues with the stock shocks for, oddly enough. I am running the really soft, the soft springs in the front and the stocks in the rear. I don't remember off the top of my head what weight we're using, but we have gone up in weight because we've also gone up in weight in the car. That, and just for jumping sake, try to get it to jump better. I'm actually running something I found on eBay. There's see if I can get it to show you guys. I find the wing on the stock wing height to be very low. There's people that make spacers out there. I'm currently running a 5mm spacer to get that wing higher up to help me with jumps. Also, I think aesthetically it just looks better higher up, especially with the truck body. It's too low with the stock height. Trying to remember what else here, because there's been quite a lot done to this. We're running the Losi steering links, turnbuckles, adjustable all the way around. Really great upgrade. Shame it took them so long to get them out and actually shipped. I know the Endura ones have been out for a while. I have way better luck with the Losi than Endura, and my turnbuckle wrench also fits these. It does not fit the Endura one, so these are also a lot better in my opinion. Speaking of Endura, though, I am running their metal rear bumper just for extra protection and a little bit of weight up front, because we're also running the front bumper as well. I was having a lot of issues to getting this car to sit where I wanted it to, especially with the springs that were available. Racing, I wanted to get the car as, pretty low. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where I could actually add weight to get it to sit where I wanted it to. So we've also got the brass hinge pin part up here. I'm sorry, like I said, I always forget the name of that part. I believe that's by GPM, if I'm not mistaken. We're also running, I forget the brand of these. Oh, sorry, we're running Nex caster blocks up front. and we're running the Losi steering knuckles up front. And I do believe we have, yep, we've got the Losi rear hubs as well. So like I said, trying to get weight in the car. Of course, trying to get it as low as we can too. One of the other big upgrades, you guys might be able to see it peeking out from the front here. Very early on, I ended up upgrading to the GPM full metal steering rack. I ended up getting into a crash with another driver, and I ended up messing up a lot of stuff on the steering rack. So I just figured, luckily GPM had come out with an upgrade, and instead of bushings, it's full bearings. So it's a lot smoother as well. And like I said, ever since I've upgraded to this servo and servo horn and the GPM steering rack, I've had no issues whatsoever with weird steering delay or anything like that. So pretty proud of this build. I do actually have a battery in here. So basically, you can see I kind of loosely tie a knot just so I have a lot less cable to worry about, and of course it just plugs right into here. And here's our on-off button, and like I said before, everything goes into the receiver here, and I've routed the antenna back here kind of through the rear shock tower, and that way it's out of the way, covered by the body. And then speaking of bodies real quick, so when this body's on here, pretty much sits, trying to get it, there we go. So I have a body clip that I put through here. I ended up drilling a hole way further down to get it to fit snug, so it pushes the body down. But with the body on, that's pretty much how it sits, like that. So then we can get a truck, kind of a truck body going, which I think looks pretty cool. Still running the stock front tires. I am going to be thinking of trying the Upgrade RC carpet tires. I need to get those tested out, but I found that the RC upgraded, RC upgrade or Upgrade RC rear tires I've done really, really well on the carpet that we race on. Loads of traction. Really, really good at pushing the car. Probably going to need that extra traction if when I put a brushless motor in here. And so those are upgrades to come eventually. We are probably, actually have it kind of sitting right here, we're probably going to be running the FuriTech brushless motor in this eventually. I'm gonna try to stick with the same ESC. Like I said, hasn't caused me any issues. I know this motor is censored, but we're probably gonna run it without that and see how it does. Stock gearing, I don't think we need to go any higher on the pinion for the setup that we're doing. But yeah, like I said, upgrades to come, and then we'll basically move on to gear. All right, so now we're going to get into the gear that I use. You can kind of see this guy peeking over here. So this is my radio bag. I've been a fond of Radiolink for quite a while now. Like I said before, not sponsored or anything, but I find that their brand, you get a lot of value for money. Initially, I had their 6-channel radio that's been out for a really, really long time now. But I wanted something a bit nicer, something with a better screen. And getting more serious into racing, I wanted something that had really good response times as far as the delay between the radio and the car, of course. So I found out about this, which was great because I didn't have to upgrade all of my receivers if I didn't want to, or I could do it over time because this supports the older receivers and the newer receivers. That gets you that really low latency time. So super nice bag here. I don't run it with the shoulder strap because normally I run this radio inside one of my saddlebags along with some other stuff to keep it compact so it doesn't move around. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I got this radio initially for like $300. Pretty nice case here. Usually it comes with a lot of the extra stuff up here in the front. Like I think it comes with a smaller LiPo battery and some other odds and ends, a screen protector and stuff like that. So I have a strap, a battery tester, and some past stuff that I won, usually up front. Nice foam, really dense stuff to help protect it. And so basically this is what it looks like inside. You've got a spot for an extra receiver. I think this comes with, I forget if it's like the 6 or the 8 channel receiver. So pretty big chunky thing that I don't use in any of my stuff at the moment. So this is it. I'll move this out of the way for now. So this is the Radiolink. I always forget the name of it. The Radiolink RC8X. So 8 channel receiver. Pretty nice. A lot of stuff. You can program it and stuff. It's got a spot for SD card, but this thing offers so much value for money, which was another reason I went with it. This thing can do have a VR module on it, and there's obviously everything's programmable, and it's got a really nice screen on it. Apparently you can change boot up sounds and pictures and stuff. I don't have anything like that on mine, but here's kind of a little bit of a preview of the screen, and of course you've got a live view of what's going on with everything, and then timed out there but there's a lot of settings on here which are really nice. It's got a little bit of a LED effect. I'm not sure if that's showing up for you guys. I've got it on sort of a breathe right now. But yeah, super nice radio. I think they say you can still get down to, I think it's a 2 or 3 millisecond latency, so pretty much right up there with Futaba and stuff like that, as long as you're running their newer receivers. So $300 versus I think some of the other higher end Futabas and stuff and Sanwas are $800-900. I personally don't have that kind of money right now, so this is what I use. Wrist strap, just to hold on to a little bit better. If I'm outdoors, I run it with a neck strap so I can go hands free if I need to go flip a car over and I want to drop the radio, of course. So this is what I use, and this is what almost all my cars are bound to. They all have their different files and things like that. And I don't run this with AA's. I don't remember if this actually this does come with a tray for AA's. You have to install it though. I do not use that. I use a ProTech Life battery. This fits in perfectly. The only thing is you need a little bit of an adapter to get it to work. So I can remove it here. So this is I always forget, this is a 3-cell LiPo. This lasts me super long time. And basically you need, if I can get it into focus here, an adapter like this. I'm sorry, I don't remember offhand what this end is called. But basically, I think it's a JST. But then you just plug it into the connections there. Make sure you've got it the right way. And it fits in there perfectly. No need for foam. No need for... I know some people on eBay, they make 3D extensions. They can get you a thicker base plate for this. But this battery happens to fit perfectly in here. There's no rattling at all. And no bulging of the door or anything like that. Perfect fit. Not sponsored, again, just happened to get that information off of somebody else. And definitely worth, I think these are $50, $55 batteries or something like that. Super duper worth it as far as the fit that you get. It's like it was made for this radio. Super, super nice. And then I've got the upgraded Radio Link wheel on here. I may swap it out to something that's actually a bit wider, just because this wheel is a little bit narrow. I'd like something with a little bit more of a purchase, and then maybe not so much foam. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's something for later down the road, and of course something else that I would just have to get used to on, for racing and everything. But this is the radio that I use. I've never had any issues with Radio Link products, so a little bit of a fanboy myself. But other than that, we'll move on to my pit bag and show you guys what I bring on my typical race day. All right, a little bit of a tight fit in camera here, but this is the bag that I use for my racing when I go up to the indoor track. Just a bag I ended up getting off Amazon that happens to fit pretty much everything that I need really, really well. Kind of starting off on the outside, on the back here, it's got a nice mesh pocket. You can just kind of throw stuff in here really quick. Obviously, I wear this as a messenger bag. I have another longer shoulder strap that I added on here from another bag. So I wear it as a messenger bag and have this on my back when I ride up to. Basically, the only thing I have in there right now is a roll of double-sided tape. A lot of times I'll throw like snacks and stuff in here. Something I know if it flies out, it's not going to be a huge deal. Turning the bag to the other side here, you can kind of see. So this has a zipper portion. So in here, I actually run my charger, and I forgot to grab it. Okay, so this is the charger that I use. Actually forgot I have the box in here. So it's the Spektrum S100, and I usually have it in the box. So this little thing I think is super awesome. It's super compact, charges everything that I need. I have all of the adapters that I need, and it all fits in this box besides the USB adapter, or sorry, the USB-C charging bank. I forget what these things are called. But I use the Anker Nano 2 65 watt adapter for this, and it charges up everything just fine. It'll do all the way up to 6 amps. Although with the smaller batteries, at most I'll only ever go up to 2, and that's only for the Mini B. For the Micro B, everything else charges on 1 amp. But this thing is super awesome. I'm so glad I ended up finding this. So I've got the rest of my adapters in here. So I've got, trying to remember, I always forget the name of these stupid things. Basically, the IC2 adapter for the batteries for the Mini, and an adapter that I got at my local shop for the Micro B batteries. And then, just in case, I've also got, I think it's a JST adapter if I, for some reason, need to charge up my battery for my radio, even though usually I end up carrying a spare. But this thing is super awesome. I've been using it for a year, no issues whatsoever. And like I said, everything fits in the box, even with the cable. So I shoved the original cable in there. I got 2 out of 3 of my adapters that actually go in the box. I usually keep the JST adapter in my battery bag. But just like that, everything's in here, and then it goes into this pouch. And in that pouch, we kind of share room with a tripod that I use for my phone or my camera, some headphones to kind of give me, blot out everything that's going on if I happen to be working on my car, have some downtime. But everything fits perfectly in here. It's crazy. Or, I mean, it's almost like I did it this way on purpose. This is a Ulanzi phone tripod. Super awesome tripod. So basically, we got the box, we got our tripod, and then we've got our brick that fits in. And then this space right here, as you can see it, I usually put my headphones right in that space, and then everything zips up perfectly in this spot right here. Super awesome. And then flipping it around here, basically got another outer pouch here, and this thing is pretty packed up. So I've got Loctite, of course, small portion to make sure it fits in the bag okay. This some more Loctite that actually fits in the loop here. You would be surprised at how often I ended up needing a reamer at the track, so I ended up carrying one in the bag. Zip ties, a cutting blade just in case, a small flashlight just in case, and then tucked away in here, funny enough, we've got a pair of nail clippers. And we might be thinking, why the heck does he have nail clippers? Something I learned from my grandfather years ago is you can get clean, flush cuts with straight nail clippers as long as they have the straight bit and they're not curved for your nail. Super easy to get flush cuts on zip ties or cut wire or anything. And it's way smaller, of course, than a pair of like wire cutters. I've got my tray for parts. Nice metal. It's got a little bit magnetized in it, so it helps hold stuff in there. And then behind that, camber gauge. I've got one of the wrenches for turnbuckles. I never use this one, so it just kind of lives in here just in case as a spare. And then, actually, in this portion here, this flap, this is where the majority of my spares live for cars. Right now I've got a whole extra AFG servo for the micro. But yeah, as much, basically spares that I've realized. So we've got double-sided tape, of course, but we've got arms, battery straps, just in case you somehow break a battery strap. Suspension arms, wing mount that I don't use anymore, but just in case. We've got pinions, pinions, then a whole bunch of stuff for the micro. Just a lot of stuff is actually missing out of here because I'm in the middle of working on other stuff too. But basically all the spares go in here, and it fits really, really nicely up against everything, which is, of course, the point to trying to make this all fit. So, and then everything goes in here in a very specific way too. So nothing gets thrown in here haphazardly. It all goes in very methodically. So here is my wonderful tiny battery bag. I got this, of course, because of the size. This thing is super awesome. Because of course a lot of tracks require safety lipo bags. This thing is awesome. I've got all of my mini and micro batteries in here. I've also got some other charging stuff in case I need it, and a couple of other little spares and things like that. But this usually lives, when I'm traveling, this lives on top of the bag, and I have got a carabiner, and it gets strapped to one of the straps so it doesn't fall off and get lost. Or depending on how I have my stuff packed, it'll go inside a saddlebag up against my radio so it doesn't shift around as much. Because like I said, I don't always take this with me because I use this already as a shoulder bag. So next thing I've got in here is the head mount that I use for this camera. This does just, once everything is loaded in, it just kind of gets tossed in here. One of the few things that doesn't have a super permanent place. Kind of hard to be able to show you guys here. So I've got a fan that I bring just in case it gets, extra warm. The battery. The fan actually hooks into this. We've got a pair of needle nose, because of course, super important. My mic set that I use while I'm out and about lives in here. Various paperwork for set ESC settings and all of that. I've got a Hobbywing ESC doohickey here. I'm sorry, I always forget what it's called. But we've got an extra servo that I haven't had to use since I upgraded to the Spectrum servo and the Mini. This awesome thing that I found that somebody 3D prints on eBay. A lot of my micro spares go in here. And this thing is awesome because it's just 3D printed. It's basically a little clamshell box. And I keep spares and the micro specific wrench and, some odds and ends. This thing is really nice because it's got sloped cubbies, so it's really easy to get things in and out. It's also really nice. I use this as the stand for my micro when I'm at the track. Just set the micro on, it fits perfectly. And in the back here, we've got spare fuzz bites and, brand new set just in case we need to swap mid race day for some reason. I've got a pair of those Upgrade RC fronts that I haven't quite tried out yet. Moving along kind of quickly. Little tiny travel stick of deodorant just because, why not? Sometimes you need it. Spare battery for the camera, of course. And this thing, I'm really glad that I found. The Dynamite toolkit basically has everything that I need in it to work on both of these cars. I've got a dedicated 1.5 and a 1.3. And then, of course, some other stuff. Turnbuckle wrench, cross wrench, just in case. But this toolkit has been awesome, and it's really compact and has pretty much everything that I would need for the two cars. So that's why it always lives in here and is only used for race days and those cars. I've got a couple of extra chassis protectors in here for both cars, just in case I have to do some major repairs and I, have to replace that for some reason. Dedicated pit lamp before we got more lights in there. This is an Icon, I forget exactly what, something I picked up off of Harbor Freight. And then trying to move on before my camera dies here, I've got both manuals for both cars for obvious reasons. Help me with exploded diagrams, and then of course in case you break something, you need to know what part number it is, and just in case they don't have it there, you can order it online. And that's pretty much everything that's in the pit bag, and then I'll show you guys a video how everything fits inside next, and then we'll wrap up. Alright guys, so as we said before, I'm going to kind of give you an overview just how everything fits in my pit bag here. Like I stated before, I've got both the manuals for each car, complete set of new wheels for the Mini B, just in case I happen to need them mid race day. Battery for my fan, various paperwork for ESCs and stuff like that. So basically, once we get to this point, I've got all of the chassis protector stuff that goes in next. Little end piece for the Mini B. And then right after that, I've got my toolkit. And specifically, I have this portion facing this direction. And so we get that just like that, right up against the wheels. And then right after that, I've got the K-Link stand that goes right on top. And then after that, I get the Mini B, and that goes right in. Have to adjust stuff just a little bit, but it fits perfectly in there. There's not a lot of wobble for it to move around and get cut up on stuff, which is perfect. And then take my Mini B kind of toolkit here, and it goes underneath the wing for underneath the wing. So just lift it up a little bit like this, and then that way the wing is kind of supported, but it also just fits back there really, really well. After that, I've got the pit light, and this is the reason why we oriented the toolkit a certain way, because this happens to fit right in that kind of that zipper area. So this goes in right here. Kind of hard to see, but it goes in here, basically on almost on the very, very bottom. And then actually I almost forgot my kind of hygiene little thing here actually goes right at the very, very front of the car here. Hopefully you guys can see that it goes in the front. It's normally already in here, and then I have a spare servo. Sorry for all the jostling around, but the spare servo also goes in the front as well. It happens to be like just the perfect length to fit in between the wheels here, which is kind of funny. So then after that, I have a little bit of a cloth that goes over this so the body doesn't get scratched at all. I actually forgot to grab. So this is what I use. It's nothing special. It's just like actually a car rag that's supposed to be disposable, but it just goes over the top here, just like I said, so nothing gets scratched or anything. And then from there, I actually take my fan that I use, and it fits right in between here. Just have to scoot over the stuff just a little bit, and it basically just kind of sits kind of like that, you know, a little bit upwards. And then pretty much after that, I got the micro. So micro kind of sits the opposite direction of the mini. And then basically from there, the only other thing that I really bring, well, actually I've got a couple of this, like I said, the spares that I haven't used, those just kind of get tossed in there. Battery for the camera gets kind of just tossed up here in front, just like this. And then the headband camera mount gets tucked in here over in the side. So you can see everything fits really, really nicely. There's just enough room for everything in here. Sometimes I'll bring the extra body. I'll just kind of like place it like that. Or sometimes I actually have, I have two micros. So sometimes I'll bring both of them to the track. The other one's pretty much stock. So if I do that, it's just a little bit of shifting around. Basically, this micro will go like this. The other one kind of goes along up here and rests on the wing just a little bit. It's not too much pressure. But like I said, it fits perfectly. Just kind of top portion goes around like this. Zip everything up just to get it all closed up. So like that. And like I said, I've got the two top straps that normally come on here. And then usually what I'll do, depending on what I'm doing, is I'll have my battery bag sit up here, and I have a carabiner attached that'll just kind of clip on here, just like that. And I'll either Velcro these together, and I'll ride with the shoulder strap and use this whole thing as a messenger bag. Or like I said, depending, this will sometimes sit in a saddlebag. But either way, once I get to where I'm going, this ends up going up here, so it's less to carry in hands and everything. And with all of that, that's basically it. That's my whole setup for two cars. Like I said, I've got the two cars, my batteries, spares in the front here, charger, and headphones, and tripod over here, and then this over here for various stuff I can just kind of toss in. And the radio, of course, has its own separate bag, um, depending on what I've got going on. So that's pretty much it right there as far as the whole cars setup and everything that I've been using and everything I've got going for the past year of racing so far.